Hi, and welcome to the Unhinged History Podcast, the podcast where two compulsive nut jobs are going to binge history stories and then regurgitate that entire story upon our friend in earshot of you.
Our other friend.
Yeah, welcome, friend.
I'm going to make this as awkward as possible today.
I mean, challenge
Sorry.
accepted because I feel like
Okay.
that was my goal.
Oh, so we're just going to up the ante a little then, huh?
I mean, look, I did make a London fog, which, that has tea, milk, honey, um, and then vanilla extract.
Yeah,
So it
yeah,
sounds
yeah.
delightful. And then Jack.
Live your truth.
I mean, I feel like it needs to be so London fog is with it without the Jack, but I think as soon as you add Jack, it needs to be like London smog or something like that. I don't know what that would be, but it seemed like a great idea. I made a good life choice.
I love that for you. I love that you not only made the beverage, but you changed its name to accommodate its additions.
Thanks.
Welcome.
You know?
That's Theresa. I'm
Oh,
Angie.
that's Angie. Hey, welcome to the introduction. We're nearly 100 episodes in, and we finally got that was, honestly, we're going to copy paste that. That was brilliant.
Nailed it.
Yep. So I get to go first, and I'm going to tell you a story that you might know. You might know. I bet
Okay.
you don't, though.
What if I say I do just to piss you off?
Then I'm just gonna sit back and be like, okay, fine, then tell me all the
What are your
deets.
sources?
You know what? Angie's gonna take it from here. I'm just gonna sit back and do embroidery. It'll be fantastic.
Okay, bye.
So I'm gonna tell you about the disappearance of Agatha Christie,
I only know that I've only ever heard like that sentence. I know nothing.
right? Okay.
Okay, yeah, that's it.
So my source is the UK National Archives investigating the strange disappearance of Agatha Christie by Catherine Howells, which is a very British name. Pan
Did you say
Macmillan,
Catherine House?
yes, Catherine
Okay, for some
Howells.
reason I thought you said Atherine House, and I was like, I that's new.
Yeah,
Add that to the list.
Atherin's unique. Um, Pan Macmillan, The Secrets of Agatha Christie's Mysterious Disappearance 96 Years Ago by Nina de Gramont. Blinkist Magazine, Uncovering the Mystery of Agatha Christie's Personal Life. Who was Agatha Christie's husband by Rob Gillum. And the podcast all about Agatha, Gone Girl, the notorious real life disappearance of Agatha Christie. Whew. You ready?
Take a breather.
Collect yourself. Eat a fruit snack. Maybe
I
a cheese
ate my
stick.
snack. I lost it. Why'd you have to bring it up again?
You told me you dropped the trash. You didn't tell me you dropped the snack. I'd have let you investigate the snack.
Well, I think I ate all the snack. I can't confirm that. I think I did. That's why I was looking for it.
You've got a dog. It'll be fine. It'll work itself out.
Let's not bring the dog into this.
That's
He's
fair.
the reason I feel the way I feel today.
All right. Okay, so December 3rd, it's a Friday, 1926. Agatha Christie leaves her home in Sunningdale, Berkshire. She gets into her car and disappears into the night. And then let me back up a second. So her day is kind of an interesting day. She gets in this big fight with her husband where he pretty much says the marriage is over. He asks her for a divorce. They have a knockdown, drag out fight like you wouldn't believe. She reportedly takes her 7-year-old daughter, goes and has tea with her mother in law, and then
Okay.
comes home, tucks her daughter in, kisses her goodnight, tells the nanny she's going to take a drive, and then just disappears, right?
Okay.
Now, this manhunt brings in the police, members of the public. I'm going to introduce some famous figures, and the tabloid just eats it up like you wouldn't believe. Everything seems straight out of a book that she would write. Let's be
I was
honest.
gonna say a book by Agatha Christie.
Right. So and there's no Hercule Poirot, there's no Miss Marple who comes in to delightfully explain all of the pieces we didn't see. But if you go to the National Archives, you can actually see like the breakdown of what happens. You can actually see like screenshots of the newspaper articles. It's delightful. So just to kind of put things in perspective, it's 1926. Her sixth novel, The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, has been published just earlier that year. And then she's gotten a series of short stories featuring Hercule Poirot, and those have been published, 2 years before that. So that's what's going on. We, you and I, because she's a household name to us, are likely to ascribe that lens to the situation. However, that's not really the case because when you look at a cover of the Daily Mirror, the headline is Mystery of Woman Novelist Disappearance, not Agatha Christie Disappears.
Oh, okay.
So she's a bestseller, but she's not one whose name is on the tip of your tongue.
Like it is today.
Correct. So, despite the fact that she's got these books published, she is selling quite well. Her personal life isn't going so hot because her husband, Archibald Christie, who's named Archie, he's having an affair with a woman named Nancy Nell. And Nancy ends up being like a family friend,
It always. Man, have you
right?
ever noticed when it's a story like this, it's always like the nanny or so and so's best
It's
friend.
someone close by. It's not like you wouldn't know him.
Right. It's
It's
never the
like,
florist.
yeah, it's like we have pictures in the family album, all of
Yeah.
us together.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Remember that year we went to Mexico together? Exactly. It's that. Yeah.
And we got lost finding ice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this is what transpires August or December 3rd. This comes out. She's having a hard time. And so she gets into her Morris Cowley, which is a type of car. And the next day, that car is discovered abandoned in a chalk quarry in Newlands Corner with some of her clothes found inside. And the police report says the car was found in such a position as to indicate that some unusual proceeding had taken place, the car being found halfway down a grassy slope well off the main road with its bonnets buried in some bushes as if it had gone out of control. In the car was found a fur coat, a dressing case containing various articles of ladies' wearing apparel, and a driver's license indicating that the owner was Mrs. Agatha Christie of Sunningdale, Berks.
Okay.
Fun fact, that car is also found pretty stinking close to where Archie's spending the weekend with his lover and friends.
Oh.
So many are going to assume the worst because the husband did it. The husband did it. The husband did it. If you've been watching true crime at all, the husband did it.
Always. Unless
And
it's not.
yeah, but default, right? So
Yeah.
police begin the investigation to try to find this missing woman. And a man who seemed to have seen Agatha Christie that night reported that she was, quote, sparsely dressed for such an inclement morning and appeared strange in her manner. So, okay, sus. Now,
Mm-hmm.
the disappearance just hits all the newspapers, right? And we get that mysterious disappearance of woman novelist. And now members of the public are joining the search. Journalists are starting to put forth some theories. They're
Of course they are.
yeah, like this is it helps them sell paper. Some are saying she drowned herself, others the husband did it. And then others are saying this is just a publicity stunt to promote novels.
Okay, I wouldn't have thought that, but okay, that
I
checks.
mean, honestly, we've kind of seen similar things when you think of like selling rap records, having a beef
Mm-hmm.
between two opposing labels. There's other things that happen that are kind of interesting, like Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. He ends up getting a glove that belongs to Agatha Christie, and he goes to a spiritualist named Horace Leaf. He hands him the glove, and Horace Leaf says that the glove belongs to an Agatha. Doesn't say
Oh,
much
as if he
else.
hasn't read the papers,
I mean,
like he's
look.
shocked.
Now, to his credit, Leaf also says that Agatha is still living and then says that she's going to be found by the following Wednesday. And he's off by one day. She's discovered on a Tuesday.
Oh, well, he said by the following Wednesday.
True. I mean, and I could have ended up writing it down wrong, but either way,
Okay.
you're not wrong. Now, 11 days later, on December 14th, so 11 days from when she started missing, I should say, because I wrote that weird. A member of the public recognizes her staying at the Swan Hydro Hotel in Harrogate.
Okay.
She had been checked in under the assumed name of Mrs. Theresa Nell,
The name of the last name, that was the name of the lady
husband's
he was his
mistress.
wife's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
Nancy Nell is the mistress. Now, why she took my
Okay.
name and the mistress's last name, I'll never know, but these are things.
Okay.
And then while she's there, she's pretty much acting like she's on vacation. She's bought a new shawl because she just kind of walked in with the clothes on her back. She'd been borrowing books from the Harrogate Library. She's ordered breakfast in her room, had a massage. She's had eaten dinner at the dining room in the hotel. And then at one point, she even goes down to a ball that they're having and dances to "We Have the Song Name, Yes, We Have No Bananas."
Oh, okay.
So it's important to
Love
know
that for us.
that we know that.
There's so many things in life we don't know, but we know
We
that.
know that she danced to "Yes, We Have No Bananas."
Okay.
So to the newspapers and the police officers, they find her, they're having a tough time, right? Like they actually like get the husband involved. He of course is like, absolutely I didn't do it. And then when reports that she appeared, he comes, sees her, says, yes, that's my wife. And then apparently they have like the most awkward conversation you can have over dinner because I can only imagine the weekend didn't start
Yeah.
with,
This
a
great.
fun conversation, let alone end like this. Now, according to Archie, he's okay. First off, she's saying she can't recall. I don't know anything. I have amnesia. Ooh, gosh, who, me? And Archie starts backing his wife up. He tells papers that she hadn't recognized him. She didn't know her own identity or where she'd been.
Oh,
And then in her autobiography years later, when she reflects back over her life, she doesn't bring anything up about the disappearance. It just poof didn't happen.
but it did.
But she just, you know what? I'm just going to control the narrative.
Good for her.
Now, her biographer, Andrew Norman, argues that she was in a fugue state caused by the trauma or depression, but then others believe that her actions are deliberate and probably designed to distress or embarrass the husband.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I guess it would.
Now, following her disappearance, there's some concerns because the police had been maybe excessive. There was a number given at some point in one of the sources about how many police officers, and I don't remember offhand, but it was a lot. Like to the point of, isn't that all police? Like that
Isn't
level
that,
of
did you know
involvement.
all of them? Did you
Yeah,
leave anybody at the station to answer the phone?
pretty much. They'd also used airplanes, and I think this was the first search where they used airplanes to try to find her.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's pretty cool.
They'd used divers and then multiple police forces. So this was a joint effort. And then on February 25th, Mr. Neil McLean, the MP for Glasgow Govan, put a question to the Home Secretary asking for information on the number of Metropolitan Police specifically detained for the search of Miss Agatha Christie, the time occupied, the total cost, and the wages of the officers entailed. So he wants receipts.
I mean, that seems reasonable.
Hmm. Now, when all of this paperwork is brought in to the National Archives, there is a written answer from the Home Secretary, and it was, quote, no members of the Metropolitan Police were specifically detailed for the purpose, and no cost was incurred by the Metropolitan Police. A description of the missing person was published and the information in the usual way. So he seems to deny any knowledge of anything, which seems sus as hell.
Yeah, okay, so the husband accounts for her, and then the police are like, nah, we weren't there.
We weren't searching for her. We weren't
That's
searching
so
for her.
weird. What?
It's like, yeah, oh, there's all this news coverage. But no, we didn't even look for it. We just had the poster.
Like we normally do, Kay. Like,
Yeah, we don't look for anybody. So I think honestly, it just sounds like he was embarrassed and didn't want to own up to how much they'd spent.
okay,
That's
I'll
what it's
allow it.
that's what it seems like to me. Now, he also explains that any actions taken were justified because of the dangers of the missing woman. Quote, the lady disappeared under circumstances which opened all sorts of possibilities. She might have been wandering with loss of memory over a vast open country around the Newlands corner. She might have fallen down one of the numerous gravel pits around there that had been most have been covered with instances of undergrowth. And she could be lying in helpless agony, which seems like he's edifying or he's kind of gilding the lily a bit. Or she might have been strongly suggested by the police, victim of a serious crime, like, murdered by husband. Under no circumstance could the police of this district have justified any inaction in this matter.
I mean, yeah,
I don't disagree.
yeah. Please tell me at the end of the story that she was just doing research for her next book.
Like I don't have much longer to go, but I it's not going to be as I'm not going to close anything up. I'm not coming
Okay,
with answers.
okay.
We truly don't know why she disappeared because we just don't have any hard evidence. She just doesn't even mention it in her autobiography. So it could be some psychological effect that she went under. It could have been depression
As
or
the youth say, she had a mentee bee.
yeah, or it could be that she was doing it just to muck with her husband because she wanted a break. Either way, the fact that she, left her 7-year-old and let her think she was dead for 11 days feels a bit rough.
Feels like somebody wasn't actually having some forethought here.
Or didn't think through all of the ramifications. Maybe had a lot of
Yeah,
forethought about everything else, but kind of skipped the spawn.
yeah.
What does happen though is that the breakdown of her marriage with Archie, that just complete, right? They finally get a divorce in 1928, and then Archie goes on to marry his mistress. So, yay, happy ending. Now, the the disappearance of Agatha Christie gives the British public a real life taste of actual mystery. I don't know, the same mystery she writes about. And that gets caught in everyone's imagination and tends to bring her name more into the public consciousness. It's also after this that she kind of goes on this, because now she's single. So she starts traveling by herself with her daughter, the whole nine. At one point, she goes to visit a distant or excavation site. I saw the word, it just didn't look right. She goes to visit a distant excavation site and she has a chance encounter with a young, dare I say, sexy archaeologist named Max Malwin. And he
That is
said,
such an archaeologist name. Oh
isn't
my
it like
gosh.
this is from like one of those romance books?
Mm-hmm.
He's wearing khaki, he's sweaty, he's got the hat on.
He's played by Brendan Fraser in the movie.
Yes, I agree to your terms. Now, she ends up being just besought by him. Now, he is as captivated with her. He loves her charm, her wit, and she just loves his passion for his profession. So their marriage goes on for the next 46 years until she dies in 1976 at age
Oh wow.
85.
Oh wow. Okay. Good for
They
them.
they had this shared love for archaeology, and that kind of appears in many of her later novels as well as their collective travels to various archaeology sites.
That's awesome. That is not at all how I thought the rest of her life went.
I mean, I didn't know what I was expecting either. However, I appreciate it.
It's so British of her. Like,
Right.
yeah. I love it.
But that is the story of the disappearance of Agatha Christie.
So we literally have no idea why she did what she did.
None.
And no idea why the husband vouched for her or why the police said what they said.
Yeah.
That is wild.
And I think it was because she just kind of locked her arms and went,
No,
I don't know. Who are you?
I will be. Oh, what did Clark say about Sacagawea? Indulged.
Yes, she will be indulged.
Yes.
And I think
Oh,
her husband was like, gosh, you know what? We're just gonna say this. Maybe this was kind of a fugue state. She didn't even
yeah.
recognize me because she just probably looked at him and went, who?
Bye. Ugh. Okay, well, you had a wild story, and I'm gonna be bothered about that for the rest of my life. So thanks.
Mhm.
Um, you do what you can, I know. So I'm gonna hit you with mine. Are you? I'm glad that you're in the state that you're in right now because my first source says heroic Cherokee knife thrower versus Nazi. The Nazi loses.
I agree to your terms.
This is my main source. It is a step above a bathroom wall or a Reddit post. It is a knife magazine, and the article was originally written in like 1982. So that's exciting. Um, there is also, funny enough, the movie database is one of my sources.
Like the
And
IMDb.
yeah, but in this case, it's actually just called themoviedatabase.com.
Okay.
Yeah, weird, I know, but they actually had the information that I was looking for that I could not find anywhere else. Um, a LA Times obituary that's got to be the weirdest written obituary I have ever read with the least amount of information ever
By the way,
from
these details are these sources are literally all over the place. Next you say
I
it's in the
told you.
back of a Coke can.
We're almost. Historycollection.com, an article by Khalid Elhausen from August 25th of 2021. That the article is called Jaw-dropping World War II stories that deserve to be in the history books. So it's like a compilation of like, 5 or 10 really great stories from World War II. Um, so with all that said, my story is a little short and fun one. And when I say that to myself, I like to point out that our sense of humor is wildly dark because I said short and fun, and we're talking about World War II. But
Hey, comedy
um,
can come from anywhere.
right, like the article in the middle of a Knife magazine from 1982. Live your dream. I'm not here to squash it. The original author of that article was a man named Harry K. McAvoy, who at the time of the writing was one of the like world's best knife throwers. So there's his credentials and there you have it. George E. Skeeter Vaughan or Gray Otter was born in Riverside County, California on December 4th, 1922. There's not a ton known about his childhood other than he was Cherokee and he grew up on the Umatilla Reservation near Pendleton, Oregon. Hopefully I said that
Okay,
right.
yeah, yeah.
Sweet. Um, I'm of the understanding that his young years they're full of hunting and fishing and doing all the things with the knife. As a boy, Vaughn living
Wait,
on this
wait.
reservation,
Did you say hunting and fishing and then doing all of those things with a knife? I don't like
like
fishing, but I've never gone fishing using only a knife.
I think there's more tools used in the fishing, but like it seems to me that this man's entire childhood was filled with throwing projectiles that you could do stuff you could handle business with. Um, like that's just how he was raised. He's raised or he's taught this by his grandfather, a man called Old Limping Bear, who was a Cherokee born in the Smoky Mountains of Tennessee.
Okay.
By the age of 12, his training would have included throwing knives and tomahawks.
By the age of 3?
12.
Oh, 12. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Also, by the age of 12, if you were lucky, you could find him hurling tomahawks and 16-inch knives made from old bayonets in performances and rodeos in the Doc Wilson's Big Medicine Show that toured through the West. So he's 12. He is 1 year younger than my youngest child. And he is hurling 16-inch knives through
I
the air.
mean, you kind of ground people differently when they have that skill set.
Absolutely, you do. Um, Yeah. So George is his first name, Skeeter Vaughan, holds the distinction of making the most fantastic knife throw in recorded history, and he's probably going to hold on to that title for a long while to come. At the age of 19, he enlists in the U.S. Cavalry. It's 1942. And later, he would land with his unit on
Omaha
Omaha
Beach?
Beach. That came out so backwards out of my mouth. Omaha Beach just 2 days after D-Day. So it's June, it's 1944 now. So he's about 21. 2 weeks after landing, he would become part of something called the Moccasin Rangers. And I am literally so frustrated because it was a unit of 15, all Native Americans. They're an elite army unit, and they're known for being especially gifted with their excellent night sight. And there is no other information about the Moccasin Rangers than that.
What?
I searched high and low for days. The only thing that I could find is that in the Civil War, Virginia had a regiment of Moccasin Rangers, which is obviously not this, right?
Yeah,
Like,
they're not immortal.
right. My understanding based on some of the notes that I encountered is that this unit may have been part of a bigger unit like the 5th or the 2nd unit of Rangers, but there's literally like I don't know. There's no other information and that makes me so mad. I would think that that would be something that's so celebrated that we would have the names of all of these men, but we don't. Like
There's
I
got to be
cannot
a
find it
book
anywhere.
somewhere.
So there is a book about Vaughn's life, but I haven't read it. I'm unclear if it's more about his time after the military than his time during the military because that seems to be the bulk of what everybody's interested in.
Okay.
But I could be wrong. And if anybody out there has ever heard of the Moccasin Rangers, if you could just like send me the Amazon link so I could purchase the book or tell me where to find the information, I would love it because I could find nothing. So allow me to, all that aside, set the stage for you a little bit. This is probably one of the most movie-esque moments of World War II, period. It's a snowy November night. It's 1944. Skeeter and 5 other members of his Rangers are asked to make way for an American advance by knocking out a German bunker with a pillbox on the Siegfried Line. Um, in case you're curious, because I was, the Siegfried Line is known in Germany as the West Wall, so it's like the western border. It was built um, during the 1930s as like a defensive unit. So like they need to remove, this is a problem. They need to remove this pillbox. They need to remove these soldiers. They are belly down, crawling through the snow behind the bunker. They're kind of concealed on the brow of the hill. They're supposedly in a stand of timber that's about 35 yards away. So the problem is that Vaughn and his men have to figure out how to neutralize this enemy and do it quietly. Just outside the bunker is a German sentry. He's got his back to the hill where Vaughn and his men are all concealed. And they're looking at him and they're thinking, this is problematic. We need to take this pillbox. Like this has to go so the advance can come. And so they're sort of like mulling out their options, right? Like they can't shoot the sentry because that's going to make noise and then it's going to alert any of the other soldiers inside the box, right?
Hmm.
They can't just give like a full frontal attack and take him out because again, gonna make noise. There's gonna be a scuffle. People are gonna hear it. This is problematic. So, Vaughn's the sergeant. He's the commander of this patrol, and he's asked by one of his men if he thinks he could take out the sentry by throwing his bayonet knife.
So not even like an actual throwing knife.
A bayonet knife. And Vaughn's like, yeah, because
Why
I've
not?
got all these years of like, why wouldn't I be able to?
Right.
This is a man that could, well, you'll hear later about what he could do with his skill set. So I don't think he had any sort of like apprehension about this. I think he was just like, well, I guess it's the job that needs to be done,
Yeah,
right?
tag me in, coach.
Right. So he crawls from the timber as far as he can without being seen and or heard. And the whole goal, right? Like, we need to do this silently. The sentry's back is still towards him. Skeeter throws the knife. He throws it with such a high trajectory. He aims about 3 feet above the sentry's head. The knife turns silently in this long downhill pinwheel fight. The sentry drops without a peep, face down in the snow.
Oh my gosh.
The distance thrown was later measured at 87 feet.
I don't know
It's
if I could
pro
throw 87 feet, let alone accurately.
in the dark. Like, that's at least the way I was understanding the story. But regardless, like, it's snowy, it's cold, there's all kinds of things that are working against him to make this happen. And he just handles it. Supposedly, that is the longest successful throw in battle in the history of knife throwing. Obviously, we don't have the full history of knife throwing in battle here. Like, we've got thousands of years of human history. But of the known stories, this 87 feet,
Wow.
right? He would later contract something called trench foot during the war.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I'm not real familiar with it, but I read it and I was like, oh my, that
Don't Google
sounds.
image search
I
trench foot.
didn't for reasons.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
I was
welcome.
like, nope, I'm grossed out enough just thinking about that. So the doctors, they recommend amputating his feet. He goes AWOL from the service hospital, returns to his old unit, asked to be put on active duty rather than losing his feet. His request is granted.
What?
He is wounded 5 times and decorated profusely. Sadly, though, he is the only member of the Moccasin Rangers to survive the war, which is
Whoa.
devastating.
Well,
Could not wrap my brain around that.
you shared an article with me today about um indigenous people during World War I, and I think it said that they died, 5% of them died, which was much higher than the 1% of the American soldiers.
Yep. Yeah, which is it makes me it's I'm curious about how that happens when in the great scheme of things they're the smaller percent of soldiers to begin with. Um and something tells me it's because of the jobs they're given.
Yeah.
They're scouts,
And just think about
they're
that. They're scouts. Why are they scouts? Because of what? What bias are we using here?
right? Um What I do think is interesting is that that's often, at least in, not to say that every time, but in stories that I've read, that's often the unit they choose to be in. Like they know they have the skill set. Let us use our
Okay.
skills to do
All
that.
right. If they're
Um,
opting in, but there's such a weird power dynamic that makes it awkward.
truly it does. And who knows how um how often that was the case, right? Like
Right.
I'm just basing my statement off a handful of stories that I read in my lifetime, but that doesn't mean that there's not hundreds more that are the opposite of that. When I was in high school, on a different note, I got the privilege to speak with the last of the Navajo Wind Talkers.
Whoa.
And that was one of the coolest experiences of my life. And one of the things that he pointed out was that his group, um, they were proud to serve in what they did, and that was something they very much chose to do, and they wanted to be a part of this greater good, right? They wanted to serve their fellow man, and they wanted to serve their country, regardless of how their country had not served them.
Mm.
And I just think that really speaks to the type of people, like every one of these people that I've encountered seems to be. And much like that article that we read earlier, for those listeners, the article was talking about how a local tribe near where my family lives on election day came out and voted as a tribe to honor the first the 100 years ago that day was the day they were given the vote. So they voted 100 years later as a tribe to honor that. And they talk about how their servicemen chose to serve because they wanted to honor their people and their country and how they were not given citizenship until after the fact.
Yeah, how they opted in to fight in World War I, despite the fact that they were not citizens of our country.
Until 1924, which is wild.
I hate
Uh,
all of it. And we kind
right?
of we kind of touched on like the 1924 citizenship bit like briefly with Ishii.
My
But yeah,
guy. I love him so much. Now, Mr. Vaughn here, in a fun segue, after the war and up to the end of his life, if you happen to be lucky enough to visit the San Gabriel Mountains, Wrightwood, California region, just this is just northeast of Los Angeles, you could actually watch the man work his magic. Um, Khalid Elhausen said in his article that, quote, he would burst balloons with tomahawks and knives and trim cigarettes held between the lips of a beautiful bikini-clad assistant. In addition to massively talented, Skeeter was charismatic and funny and often gave a history of the tomahawk during his show. He would display a pipe tomahawk and remark that, quote, you could get stoned with either end of this thing. And he would deliver it with a grin so infectious that people still laughed even after the umpteenth time they heard the line. He was also a stuntman. Later in life, Skeeter would find himself in roles on Happy Days, Gunsmoke, The $6 Million Man, Magnum PI. Like he did some stuff. He died March of 1989 of a heart attack in his home. Like we were alive for this man's life. And
wow.
because I simply am just in adoration of him, I have a handful of pictures that I would love
Please
to
and
share
thank
with you.
you.
Let me pull up my screen and give them to you. Can you see them? I think you can see them now.
Yes. Okay, so she's showing me the quintessential cowboy photo. Like he is wearing jeans. I'm guessing those are moccasins now that I look at him.
Yeah,
Um,
they look like moccasins to me.
yeah, he's got a leather vest on, a button down rolled up to mid arm, and then apparently something some bladed device he is gearing up to throw. So you see the front where he's posing for the cameraman, and then you see like the side view or 70,
Yeah.
like he's 45-degree angle. You can see the tomahawk in the air, Winnebago in the background.
Yep. You know what's funny is I looked at that picture 100 times and just now noticed the Winnebago in the background, and it's like the whole background.
Look, I'm here for you. I just want you to know that I'm between the two of us, we'll get there.
We'll figure it out. Look at this. Look at this man. How can you not love him?
He he's a very avuncular looking dude. This is the guy that would be sitting at your dining room table, eating all the mashed potatoes, telling you about the hijinks your parents got into in high school that you're currently grounded
Mm-hmm.
for and how they actually perfected it.
Yep, and you would love him to bits. Like he would be your favorite uncle for sure.
Yes.
I love this one of him.
Okay, so this
Um,
one is a very like he is in some solid Indian regalia. He's got a leather shirt on. He's got, I don't know the type of necklace that he's wearing. I feel like it has a specific term. And he's got his
it's
hair
got like the
braided.
abalone at the center. It's the choker with
Yes.
the and then the beads and the feathers come out of it. I don't know what that's called either, but I always say choker in my mind. That's what it is.
And I'm sure it has its a very specific name.
Me too. Yeah. This picture I love so like okay, this is a funny aside about me, but I love black and white pictures, particularly of older men, because you see their life on their face
Yes.
and you can see like every wrinkle and every indent, and he just looks like the person with whom you could sit next to and he would be happy to share anything in his possession and any story you want to hear. Like,
You know, I love hearing stories about incredible things people did in their young life and then seeing pictures of them old.
hmm yeah, because it kind of gives you the context, like, oh, you survived that.
Right.
Um,
I mean, there's
like,
so many people who, like Sacagawea, died remarkably young, maybe. And you're just like, ooh, and then you hear, like, oh no, this human lived to the ripe
hmm
old age.
yeah. I mean, he died. He was born in 22, died in 89. So, I mean, he had a life. He had a good life, and I mean, he. I'm sure there obviously war is not a good life, but I think he's the type of person that made it.
Well,
Um,
and World War I was insidious because you go in with these, like, you look at like the European armies who go in like with their full on regalia. And then the
hmm
war ends and they have like the military green with the helmets and everything. I mean, just everything changed. Battles changed. The
Battle changed
tech.
because of World War I, especially with the tech and the bigness of it. I think World War II was different in that we had more information.
Yeah.
The information was easier to get to, um, and so was the devastation. And so, yeah, I am devastated that we know that there were 15 soldiers of an elite unit called the Moccasin Rangers, and we know nothing about them except for his amazing story of an 87-foot throw in the snow to knock the Nazi off the census record.
Well, I mean, we know that, and we know that he was the only one to make it out.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, what happened in between?
Yeah, I who knows? I mean, they were in France and obviously on the German line, so you have to assume that they're definitely the front line, and there's only 15 of them, which is what I want to know, what I specifically want to know is of these 15, what tribes were they representing?
What other
Besides, he
missions
was,
did they do? How did they like,
yeah,
how
we
did
know
they
nothing.
mesh? I mean, because like, were they of tribes that didn't necessarily get along and they're able to put aside their beef and build a brotherhood? Were they all like, hey, we're actually from five sister tribes. We all actually have a common language? Like, what?
Yeah, I have questions and there is no answers. But that's my story of George Skeeter Vaughan and his 87-foot throw through the snow in the air to make himself a legend. And you know what it made me think of? And it's going to drive me nuts. I should have Googled this before I got here, but uh, it might have been, I don't think it was Sitting Bull that said it, but there is a proverb, a story about how you become a war chief. you have to split the hair of your enemy, and you have
Yes,
to do
you have
all
to do
these
you
things,
have to
right?
yeah, you have to oh gosh, it was the last war chief actually happened during World War II was honored by Obama. You have to steal an enemy's horse. Let me look it up because this
Yeah.
is going to drive me nuts. So, like,
Right?
this is legitimately going to drive me nuts. Okay. War chief requirements. Thank you, Google. Okay. For the Crow tribe, you have to touch an enemy without killing them, disarm the enemy, capture their horse, and lead a successful war party. And
Yeah.
Joseph Medicine Crow
That's who it was. I knew it wasn't
is
Sitting Bull.
you're fine. We can maybe I can try to, edit this in such a way to edit all that out.
No, you don't have to. I mean, like it I should have looked it up before I got here, and it's been something that I've been like trying to remember on my own. Like I know it, so I'm not gonna Google it
Come
like
on,
out of
brain,
frustration.
brain.
Exactly. Spin your gears. Ugh, what do I even have you for?
Quit telling me file not found. No, I don't want to
Exactly.
recall the one thing I said in third grade after I farted.
Yes. Thank you. Yes. So that's George Skeeter Vaughan. And we both brought each other stories that had crazy lack of information.
I know, for me to be like, and
I'm
we
here
still don't
for it.
know. Okay,
Goodbye.
bye.
Oh,
Oh,
goodness, there we
I
go.
love him. Thank you for sharing
Me
his story.
too. He is delightful, and I just I cannot not with him.
Ah, well, if you've enjoyed this, if you're thinking, hot diggity, that was downright delightful, and you're wondering just what we could do to top next week, we don't know.
So are we.
Yeah, the news hasn't hit us yet. The compulsion to keep Googling has not arose, but you can rate, review, subscribe. And honestly, we want you to do it. You haven't done it yet. Hit the review button. We're looking for
Come
just one
on.
more. But you can
Or
also
10 more.
email us at unhinged.historypod@gmail.com and we'll read it to each other even. And on that note, goodbye.
Bye.